Observe your breath. Your chest expands every time you breathe in and contracts every time you breathe out. This is because breathing causes the movement in lung and chest muscles to maintain the body at equilibrium pressure. Let's study respiration in detail. Respiration involves breathing, external respiration, internal transport, internal respiration, and cellular respiration. Breathing is a two-step process. The first step, called inspiration, involves taking in air from the atmosphere inside the body, and the second step, expiration, involves releasing air from the body into the atmosphere. During inspiration, the diaphragm is pulled down. This causes the intercostal muscles to lift up the ribs and the sternum, thus expanding the rib cage. This increases the volume of the thoracic cavity, causing the pressure inside to decrease. This action allows air to enter the body cavity, making the lungs expand. The expiration process is just the opposite of the inspiration process. In expiration, the diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax. This returns the thoracic cavity to its original volume and increases the air pressure in the lungs. As the air pressure inside the lungs is higher than the atmospheric pressure, the air rushes out of the lungs. The second stage of respiration is called external respiration, and it involves diffusion of gases across the alveolar membrane. The diffusion membrane is made up of three major layers, namely the thin squamous epithelium of alveoli, the endothelium of alveolar capillaries, and the basement substance in between them. Alveoli are the primary sites of exchange of gases. The thickness of its membrane is less than a millimeter. Carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times more soluble than oxygen. Hence, the amount of carbon dioxide that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane is much higher compared to that of oxygen. The diffused gases are carried by the blood from the lungs to different organs of the body. This is called gas transport. Blood from heart enters the lungs through the pulmonary artery, arterioles, and alveolar capillaries. In lungs, oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged between blood and the air. This blood then flows out of the alveolar capillaries, through venules, and back to the heart via the pulmonary veins. Heart pumps this oxygen-rich blood to different tissues. Hemoglobin in the blood transports the oxygen. The diffusion of gases between the blood and the tissues is called internal respiration. The oxygen that is carried to the tissues is used by cells to produce ATP. ATP is produced by the breaking down of organic molecules. This process is called cellular respiration. Thus, respiration takes place in humans. We have seen how we breathe. But can we measure how much we can breathe? An average lung can hold about 6 liters of air, of which only a small amount is used during normal breathing. The volume of gas contained within the lungs is called respiratory volumes, and different combinations of lung volumes are called respiratory capacities. The volume of air inspired and expired by the lungs can be estimated by using a procedure called spirometry. Let's discuss the respiratory volumes and respiratory capacities. Volume of air inspired or expired during each normal breath is called tidal volume. A healthy man can inspire or expire approximately 6,000 to 8,000 milliliters of air per minute. Inspiratory reserve volume is the additional volume of air that a person can inspire by a maximal inspiration. This usually happens during exercise or exertion when we need to breathe forcibly. This averages from 2,500 milliliters to 3,000 milliliters. The additional volume of air that a person can expire by a maximal expiration is called expiratory reserve volume. This averages from 1,000 milliliters to 1,100 milliliters. The volume of air that remains in the lungs after a maximal expiration is called residual volume. This averages from 1,100 milliliters to 1,200 milliliters. The total volume of air a person can inspire after a normal expiration is his inspiratory capacity. This includes both tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume. Total volume of air a person can expire after a normal inspiration is called his expiratory capacity. This includes both tidal volume and the expiratory reserve volume. Volume of air that remains in the lungs after a normal expiration is called functional residual capacity. This includes both expiratory reserve volume and residual volume. Volume of maximal inspiration after a forced expiration, or volume of maximal expiration after a forced inspiration, is known as vital capacity. This includes the expiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, and inspiratory reserve volume. It is approximately 3 liters. The total volume of air accommodated in the lungs after maximal inspiration is known as total lung capacity. This includes residual volume, expiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, and inspiratory reserve volume. It is this capacity of our lungs that allows swimmers, long-distance runners, cyclists, and other athletes to maintain their stamina, pace, and speed required to win a race.